Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Sid Waldman, and I work here at Hardin Family Funeral Home. And on behalf of Jimmy Hardin, his family, and my family, we'd like to thank you all for coming and supporting this family. I'm going to be your MC this afternoon. I am not clergy, but I've been asked to just sort of make sure that this short memorial service has a start, a finish, and maybe a middle. At the rising of the sun and its going down, we'll remember Pops. At the blowing of the wind and the chill of winter, we'll remember Pops. At the opening of the buds and in rebirth of spring, we'll remember Pops. At the blueness of the sky and in the warmth of summer, we'll remember Pops. At the rustling of the leaves and the beauty of autumn, such as we have today, we'll remember Pops. In the beginning of the year and when it ends, we'll remember Pops. As long as we live, he too will live, for he is now part of us as we remember him. When we are weary and in need of strength, we'll remember Pops. When we are lost and sick at heart, we'll remember Pops. When we have joy and we crave to share, we'll remember Pops. When we have decisions that are difficult to make, we'll remember Pops. When we have achievements that are based on theirs, we'll remember Pops. As long as we live, he too will live, for he is now a part of us as we remember him. And so this afternoon, the family is going to speak and tell us some wonderful things on how we can remember Pops. First, his wife, Honey.
Okay. I don't know if they're able to hear me. Are you?
Speak loud.
Yes? Okay. 55 years were not enough. Wedding anniversary number 55 was spent at Baylor Clinic, followed by a stay at St. Luke's Hospital. There was no celebration. Anniversary 54 was celebrated at a resort in the Dominican Republic with our elder son and daughter-in-law. Anniversary 50 was spent in New Jersey with both our sons, a future daughter-in-law, and future grandchildren. And we celebrated not only our anniversary, but my recovery from cardiac surgery. Without Howard's help, during that time, I don't think I could have survived. We were always there for each other. A promise was meant to be kept, and vows were a step up from a promise. During the last week, I sobbed and blubbered, sometimes uncontrollably, and was comforted by Alan, Adam, and Kirsty, who clearly needed comforting themselves. I am grateful for their presence, as I am of yours. Those of you who are here to celebrate Howard's life. I know that I will continue grieving for him, will hold his love in my heart as I go on keeping my love for him. 55 years were not nearly enough. I have been very fortunate to meet some wonderful people in the community where we live. One of these is Dutch Keen, and he has shared poetry that he wrote with me. And when he heard about Howard's passing, he emailed me and asked if I remembered or saw one of these poems. I did, and I'm just going to read a little bit of this. No, I'm going to read the whole thing. Who will sit at the end of my bed? Someone asks the question, who? Who will sit at the end of my bed? Do we need to ask a friend to be here in a loved one's stead? There comes a time in life when all must end, but should it? If all that we believe is real, if it's really truth, then would it? There is no doubt life can be lonely, and at the end of life even more so. When one loses a loved one's touch, is it really time to just let go? You can't ever just let go of love. It will never ever go away. When you lose the one whose life you share, they will wait for you for one last day. For that one day may be the one that is best, the day when all troubles seem to cease, when tears of sadness are replaced with joy. For you know in your heart they are at peace. So cry if you want to, if that is best, but loneliness should not be a part of death. For within your heart your memories reside, and you'll share them till your own last breath. And when it's time for you to go, and thoughts of your life fill your head, you won't be alone, for God will be there, the one who sits at the end of your bed. Thank you.
Adam?
Thank you, all of you, for coming. We're immensely grateful, but not for the feedback. The obituary that you see in the program, my mom, brother, and I brainstormed, and Alan wrote it up, and I really think it sums up my dad as best as he can be summed up. He enjoyed his family, animals, food, and basically just chilling, just relaxing and giving love and being loved. I only got to know him I'm glad you asked me to write this out instead of speaking from the hip. I only got to know him for 45 years, and in some ways I never really got to know him because he suffered a major loss as a child when he lost his own dad when he was 12, and I think that really affected him every day. And over this last week, I realized that I'm grateful that he doesn't have to suffer that pain anymore. What I did know and got to know about my dad was how much he loved the three of us and our pets, and most of you knew him as Pops. And my earliest memory of him, which my mom claims that I've made up, but I don't believe that I've made it up, is that I was about 2 years old. They were having a party at their house. They'd recently moved to New Jersey, and I heard people calling him Howard. And I was like, oh my God, he's got another name other than Dad. So I started calling him Howard, and I was calling him that all day until he finally got frustrated and said, I'm your father, call me Dad. So from that point on until he gained the moniker of Pops, I called him Dad. The night he met my in-laws, Judy and Glenn were giving a party, and I told Glenn in advance that my dad was a remorseless eating machine. And when we introduced my dad to Glenn, he welcomed him with, "You're the remorseless eating machine." And Pops did not disappoint that night. There was a lot of food gone at his hand. My favorite thing about my dad was just knowing that he loved me. No matter what I was interested in as a child, from sports memorabilia to volleyball to the Cub Scouts Pine Derby, no matter how boring or time-consuming, he always made time to participate with me. And a lot of you know I switched careers recently, and without his support, the first time I entered the collectibles business when I was 8, I probably wouldn't have the joy of this new job. You know, he supported every step back then, and he did until he passed away. My last story that my mom may have forgotten and my brother maybe has never heard occurred when I was visiting home from either law school or college. I don't remember which. Anyway, Pops did not like his job very much, and he created a lair in their basement that contained a television, a computer, and all sorts of snacks. And I was down there one night just sitting and playing on the computer, and he came downstairs and said, "I'm glad you're home. It feels like I'm on vacation every day." That's it.
And now, Alan.
No, I have a feeling. It's a little long, so forgive me, but some things have to be said.
We're remembering him.
And bear with me because I'm normally not a crier. This is one of those times, you know. Okay. Let's see if I can do this. Excuse me a second. Is there a reason for this? Why? When I'm angry, I don't cry, so this works out well. Thank you. Okay, now I can do this. My dad was a special man in many ways. I know everyone says their dad is special, but I truly do not believe they understood the meaning of the word when they used it. I do. My dad was... Oh, boy. I'm just going to look at this so I can stay centered. My dad was born in 1939. He lost his father at a very young age. and was soon given a stepfather. His stepfather was, in simple terms, a cruel, sadistic, arrogant person. His mother, in my eyes, was a petite, young mother who wanted to be accepted by someone other than her son. Unfortunately, this cost her, in not supporting her son, her flesh and blood. You hearing this? Okay. During his crucial growing and learning years. My father learned through his stepfather to ridicule, destroy any aspirations of doing better for themselves. This was drilled into him day in and day out. Yet, by some miracle, my father managed okay, focus, to make an incredible life for himself. By some twist of fate, my dad met my mother in 1958. I'm not doing a poem. Now let me tell you a pinch about my mother. She was a very, very good judge of people. With that said, I think she saw the amount of pain my father endured while growing up, but also saw a sweet, loving, compassionate person that she grew to embrace and love. I will say that my father did not make it easy for her, but he really did not give her a choice to become his wife. Well, no shotgun, but close. On August 14th, 1960, they got married. The vows they took that day ring so immensely true today as we are saying goodbye to my dad, till death do us part. Now, things were very different than now. Now things are very different than then, or something. My dad and mom, of course, planned their lives from the beginning. I was born in 1963. They still lived in Brooklyn in an apartment. In 1970, my brother was born, and my father, being the person he was, realized there was not enough space in this small apartment and proceeded to find new living arrangements. Most people would look a town over, down the street, but not my dad. He and my mother found a home in Plainfield, New Jersey. I was 8 years old, and that is the age when children make their long-term relationships. So much for nurturing those relationships. Additionally, the culture shock of moving from a predominantly Jewish Italian neighborhood to a predominantly Afro-American waspy type of neighborhood is a shock. I guess my dad was a fortune teller and was preparing me for my future moves and relationships. Now there we are in Plainfield. Front yards, trees, driveways, bikes, playing in open lots and such. It was a far cry from all the cement in Brooklyn and the one little tree in the fenced-in quote-unquote front yard. My dad worked and worked to support his wife and children. He supported both my brother and I in anything, and I mean anything, we wanted to do. He became involved in every one of our hobbies and whatever sports we wanted to participate. Bottom line is that he was there. Focus. I remember returning home from school in New Mexico during winter break. I had gotten a real taste of exploring caves and mines and stuff like that, and I told my dad that I wanted to go to Franklin, New Jersey, because there were minerals you can only get there. He said fine. It was less than 30 degrees outside, and he was at my side making the trek. Why? Because it was something I was interested in, and he wanted to be with me to enjoy the experience. Well, as luck would have it, the place I planned on going to was closed for the bloody winter. So my dad said, okay, let's go home. I looked at him and said, where a fence starts, a fence ends. He said, hell no. Sorry, whoever doesn't like that. And I proceeded to find the end of the fence and enter. He stayed behind his lookout, freezing his butt off, and I proceeded to break rock. As a matter of fact, after he passed, I've been going through some things, and we're talking 20 plus years ago, he still had this core sample in his little things that he kept as mementos, which really was, I was like, holy cow. Granted, he only gave me about an hour before he got a little more nervous. The point is, he was there to be with me and support me in this. After returning home and telling the story to my mom, of course my mom said, I did not raise you to do things like that. And I replied with, that's why I asked Daddy. As I had been trying to organize, I just mentioned that, sorry. My dad would ask me to help with things around the house, to assist in fixing, repairing, making. During the process of doing the actual things with him, my dad could be rather frustrating. his sometimes lack of understanding how things needed to be done, but he always trusted me, knowing I would do my best for him. Many times when things needed to be done, we needed to go to the hardware store or another store for supplies. My mother was aware we were going, and if it was during the week, she had a good idea of when we would be back. But if we were looking for things on the weekend, all bets were off. God forbid we saw a sign for a garage or a yard sale. There we were. I would never have to ask if we could go. As a matter of fact, there were a few times when I didn't see a sign, and he said, "Didn't you see the effing sign?" I'm like, okay. Basically, going out on the weekend with my dad normally entailed many hours and returning home with items we needed for the project at hand, and many other things that my mother never anticipated our returning with. I cannot speak for my brother with regards to all the things he had done and or participated with for him, but I am sure it was with the same enthusiasm as he did for me. Excuse me. When I went to college in New Mexico, he was there. When I got married the first time, he was there. When I had children, my wife, of course, he was there. When I got divorced, he was there. When I found my wife and decided to move to another country, he was there. Always. And without hesitation, when something was needed, happening, or changing in my life, he was there. Today he's here in our hearts and in our prayers. He will always be remembered by the people here today. My dad was a very guarded individual. He did not express himself with a lot of words. He rarely let new people into his small circle of friends and or people he wanted to associate with. He made it pretty clear if he didn't like you. He would come across to some people as crass, abrupt, and possibly rude. He was his own person and never compromised his position on things. This he instilled in my brother and I. On that topic of my dad accepting new people into his life, when my dad would talk about Adam's then fiancée Kirsty, he said that she was such a sweet and lovable person, and he was so happy that Adam was able to finally find real happiness. The sparkle in his eye when he would talk about Kirsty was enough confirmation for me that Adam had finally found his other half. I thought, I hope one day I could give him that same sparkle. And I knew I had to be very careful, knowing how he weans out the crappy people. How do we get this back on? That's a concept thing. Okay. My dad was not able to attend my wedding due to his health issues. The first time in my life that he was not there. I knew he truly wanted to be there and was there in thought. It took another year or so before he had the opportunity to meet my wife, Naira. And I was probably as nervous as he and Naira was with regards to that first meeting. Partly because there would be a huge language barrier. My wife, being who she is, tried her best to communicate with my dad, and, in turn, he tried his limited Spanish with her. Como está, Kaire, things like that. I watched them interact that first day. Within a couple of hours, my dad was defending Nairo against me, telling me not to pick on her and telling me not to tell her to speak English. By the end of the day, I saw the sparkle I was waiting for. He later, verbally, confirmed my thoughts. He was enchanted with Naro, told me I was lucky to find her, and that he was lucky to have her in the family. Couple more pages, sorry. In reality, it was the other way around. We were lucky and blessed to have my dad as the creator of this family. Every parent wants the best for their children, to be happy in their lives. My dad was no exception to this. In our case, I always wanted my dad to be happy. I knew he was happy to be with my brother and I, although he frustrated him over the years, to have my mother by his side always, to curse at people while driving, a skill he has given to me, and do other things that brought him joy. I, as his son, always wanted him happy and tried to make him happy regardless of the geographic distance. As I mentioned earlier, my dad was a very guarded individual. He did not talk a lot. He did not express his feelings so people would know how he felt. With that said, people would think he was not happy. When he had a scowl on his face, I would always say things to make him smile and or laugh. Even the slightest chuckle from him made me extremely happy because he did that so infrequently. After my dad said goodbye to us last night, I have spoken to a few friends and answered my mom's phone from friends calling to express their condolences. The theme was always the same. He was a sweet, loving man that cared deeply for his wife, sons, and their families. One of my friends told me that he was the sweetest man she had ever met. I'm sorry. That he was the sweetest man she had ever had the pleasure of knowing, and that I had the best dad in the world. That I was lucky to have him as a father, because he was the best dad in the world. That she considered him like her dad. In truth, we were all lucky to have known him. With all of his quirks, we are all in a better place today, having known Dad. Although it was very difficult to fathom life without him, either by our side or via a phone call. It is our responsibility, no, our honor, to keep him in our hearts and thoughts each and every one of our remaining days. I could go on and on about my dad, but then he would be pissed off for wasting everybody's time today. But I do need to say one more thing about my dad. He enjoyed life. He lived to make my mother happy every day. He yearned to be with his sons whenever possible. His last couple of years, months, and days were those of uncertainty, fright, and pain. He was unable to do the things that came easily in previous years, and depended on my mom for many tasks that you or I would think simple. He was a man with great pride in his wife and sons, compassion and sincerity. When he passed, he was surrounded by loved ones, and that was a simple wish that we were all able to fulfill. We are all saying goodbye to him today, but in reality, it is not a goodbye. He will always be with us here in whatever my mom, my brother, or our extended families do. Goodbye, Dad. I love you. Yeah.
Thank you, honey, Adam, and Alan. It is never easy to get up and speak in front of people. but on a very emotional day like this afternoon, it makes it that much harder. But we thank you for the effort and allowing us to learn more about your dad, Pops, than we would have without that effort. We appreciate it. At this time, we'll take a minute for silent meditation. On page 3 in your service folders. O God, full of compassion, thou who dwellst on high, grant perfect rest beneath thy sheltering wings of thy presence among the holy and pure, who shine as brightness of the firmament, unto the soul of Howard Pops Schachter, who is gone into eternity. Lord of mercy, bring him under thy cover of thy wings, and let his soul be bound up in the bond of eternal life. Be thou his possession, and his repose be a peace, to which we all say, Amen. The 23rd Psalm. Let's read it together. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. The final prayer we read this afternoon is our mourner's Kaddish. Nowhere in here is the word death or dying. It's all about praising God. And so if you would please rise. It's on the last page, and we'll read it together. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah v'yalma divra kirute v'yalmik malkute. Well, let me see here. Bagala Zman Kol Israel, Bagala Zman Kol V'Imru Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbam V'Barak V'Olam Omei Omaya. Yitbarak V'Shtabak V'Yispar V'Yisroman V'Yisnaseh. Yisadar V'Salev V'Salol Shemei D'Kudesha B'Riachu. Leila Min Kol Brachata V'Shirata. Tishbechata V'Nekamata. Damiran V'Yalma V'Yimru Amen. Yehei Shmei Labam Min Shemaya. V'Haim Aleinu V'Yal Kol Yisrael. V'Yimru Amen. Oseh Shalom B'Mamav. Huyaseh Shalom. Aleinu V'Yal Kol Yisrael. V'Yimru Amen. We sanctify your name on earth as we pray for the coming of a reign of peace in our day, our own lives and the lives of all Israel. Let your great name be blessed forever and ever. Let your name be exalted and honored, though you're beyond all the praise we can utter, all the songs we can ever sing. For us, for all Israel, for all men and women, may the blessing of peace and the promise of life come true. As you make a peace on high, so let peace descend on us, on all Israel and all the world. Amen. You may be seated. So this afternoon, as we make our way out of the building, there's a very nice reception in the front part of the funeral home for you all to enjoy. I'd like to again thank you all for coming. Spread your arms of comfort around this family. Make sure that they know today and in the days and weeks ahead that you are with them. I wish you a fine afternoon. If you haven't signed in, there's a register book right outside the door. The family does want to know who's come today. Thank you all very much. Have a blessed day.